they say, here's this drug, take this. And the patient will say, does this drug work? No, not really. Will this give me my memory back? No. Will it slow down Alzheimer's? Just maybe a little bit. Are there side effects? Yes, there are very bad side effects. So either they say there's nothing we can do, or they give them drugs that don't work to barely work that have significant side effects. Is that pretty much true?
Welcome to the Brain Fit Podcast, where we share the cutting-edge science on how you can improve your memory and live a happier, healthier life. My name is Robert Love. I'm a neuroscientist and I have a medical clinic in Florida where we are reversing Alzheimer's in our patients. Today on the Brain Fit Podcast, we have an amazing expert in not only preventing Alzheimer's, but he's actually reversed Alzheimer's in his clinic. And he has been in the space of helping prevent and reverse Alzheimer's for the past 10 years. His name is Dr. Josh Helman, a medical doctor trained at Harvard. He's actually my partner in our clinic here in Florida where we are reversing Alzheimer's. In this video, he shares with you the very best tools to help prevent Alzheimer's disease, many of which are free, and how you can begin to reverse Alzheimer's disease. So here is Dr. Josh Helman.
Welcome. My name is Robert Love. I'm here with Dr. Josh Helman, and this is a bonus for our health summit that we recently did. And we wanted to give you a little bit more information about who we are and why we're passionate about preventing Alzheimer's disease. And I just want to tell you, viewer and Dr. Josh, I'm just so honored to work with you on this project. It's been great fun getting to know you on a personal level and a professional level. I love going to conferences with you and both talking to people about things about dementia that they had no idea about. They're like, oh, heavy metals, I didn't know about that. And then just having fun with you and about kind of the mainstream medical establishment, about how they're missing a lot of really important science-backed things around Alzheimer's disease and dementia. It's just been a great pleasure and thrill to work with you on this.
Likewise. Yeah, Robert, it's been really cool.
And so tell me, Dr. Josh, what got you interested in this area of medicine? I know you have an undergraduate and graduate degrees from Harvard Medical School, as well as MIT. What got you into this area of interest of Alzheimer's, dementia, and preventing memory loss?
Oh, this is a funny story, because on a personal level, this has been really important. My own grandmother had dementia when I was when I was a teenager. So, I mean, I saw it firsthand, and I saw how devastating it was, not just for her, but the effect it had on my mom and other family members. So on a personal level, this definitely struck home at an early age. But what's really interesting is I remember undergraduate going to Harvard, wanting to get into medicine, and just being overwhelmed with the whole field of psychology of the mind, and just thinking that is such a difficult field. I can't study this. It's the brain is just so complicated. And it was only after going through medical school, and at the medical school I went into, many medical schools, taking a neurology elective or course was not a requirement for medical school. But where I went to medical school, they said, no, every medical student's going to have a rotation in neurology. And I remember studying neurology and saying, wow, the brain is so complicated. It's amazing. And then I went to surgery, but I ended up in emergency medicine. And then seeing in emergency medicine, you would see people with strokes and dementia and TIA, these mini strokes. And it was, time is of the essence. We would give drugs, clot busters. And if you weren't able to treat them within 3 hours or 4.5 hours, your opportunity is lost. So I went from being really intimidated by the whole area of the mind to now I'm passionate about it. And over the last 6 years, I've worked in a clinic where basically we give people their brains back. They have brain fog. They don't have any their short-term memory's gone. For day memory, they don't have. We've taken patients with memory loss from, in many cases, it's not Alzheimer's. Many cases, it's dementia from heavy metals, infections, mold toxicity. We've taken patients like that, and after many months of intensive IV therapies, they have their brains back. I mean, we gave them their life back. I've had family members, spouses in tears, and it's like, look, I've never known my husband. I've never known my husband, with a completely clear mind. I mean, and this patient, wasn't able to function, and now he's back and he's working. So, yeah, that's why I'm very passionate about that. Is that there are non-traditional approaches to reversing dementia that are not taught in medical school. They're not taught to neurologists. And speaking of which, they're not teaching people how to prevent dementia, which is what this whole summit is about.
And so you mentioned a couple of things. I just want to dive a little bit deeper into this. What are some of the things that you've seen in your practice that have helped people get their mind back that are not taught in traditional medicine, traditional neurology?
Yeah. So the fact that in many cases, infections and toxins are causing the dementia, that's not taught. The fact when I get PET scans of patients' brains, PET scan is basically just a functional study to see which parts of the brain are working, which are not. PET scans of the brain are not normally done for patients. And
what do they do? What kind of brain scans are they doing?
Well, the first thing that they normally they will get a CAT scan or MRI of the brain. And those are great tests to look at the structure of the brain to make sure that there isn't like a big cyst, a big fluid collection that isn't putting pressure on the brain. So I'm not saying don't get those tests. Those tests are great, but those tests don't tell you which parts of the brain are working or not working. So if you're looking specifically for a functional study, you have to get something called a SPECT scan. And a PET scan is like a modern version of the SPECT scan. And then there are some experimental studies where you can look at function. But again, function is not normally obtained on the brain.
If you or someone you love has Alzheimer's or another form of dementia, I want you to know there is hope. Alzheimer's is preventable and it is even reversible. In fact, we are reversing Alzheimer's in my medical clinic here in Florida. My partner and medical director is Dr. Josh Helman, a medical doctor trained at Harvard who specializes in preventing and reversing Alzheimer's disease, and we are reversing Alzheimer's in our patients. If you'd like to learn more about working with us to both prevent Alzheimer's and even reverse Alzheimer's and reverse memory loss associated with other forms of dementia, we would love to hear from you and send you some free information so you can learn what we are doing and see if it's a fit for you to come down and work with us in our clinic. We also work with other clinics around the country to help patients both prevent Alzheimer's as well as to reverse Alzheimer's and reverse memory loss associated with dementia. So if you'd like to learn more, go to brainpowerclinics.com. Go to brainpowerclinics.com and then enter your information. We will send you some free information, and then we hope to work with you, if we can be helpful to you, to help you prevent and reverse Alzheimer's disease.
You mentioned infections. I think you said toxins. Are you referring to heavy metals? Are you referring to mycotoxins? Are you referring to things in the air? What are some things that are shown in the science and shown in your clinic to increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease or memory loss that they're not talking about? So infections, what are some, for example, so people can kind of get a hold of what you're talking about?
Sure. So the quick answer to what you're saying is it's all of that and probably 200 or 1,000 other things too.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So I can't, by definition, I'm not going to be able to mention every single one, but let me just give you some specific examples. There's a certain type of dementia called Lewy body dementia. And they've finally shown that they've taken patients who had an autopsy and they've looked at under the microscope and they've looked and they've identified Lyme spirochetes in the Lewy bodies. So I'm not saying that every case of dementia is caused by Lyme disease, but I'm saying that can definitely be associated. We definitely know that there's certain parasites that can cause dementia. There are other infections like Bartonella. There are mold and the mold toxins produced. It's hard to list all the heavy metals, whether it's mercury, lead, PCBs. There are these forever chemicals called PFOAs that they're called forever chemicals because they're not normally broken down in the body.
There's fluoride in those chemicals, right? Those are I don't know how to pronounce the PFOAs, but there's a fluoride compound in there, right? Or a fluorine.
There is, yeah, and actually normally there's like 5 or 6 or 7 fluoride atoms in this compound, and that's one of the reasons why it's very hard for the body to break down, because it's normally not found in nature.
Okay, it's interesting because calcium fluoride is found in nature, and that can often be found naturally in water. That's not so bad, but the fluoride that's found in our water is fluorosilicic acid, which is from the phosphate fertilizer industry. It's actually a waste product from there. It's really interesting how fluoride, and then fluoride, is in Teflon. It's very interesting how this potential endocrine disruptor, the thyroid, fluoride will replace iodine in the thyroid. It's very interesting how it's gotten into so many different chemicals like Teflon, like these forever chemicals, and then even into our drinking water.
Yeah. Well, with respect, fluoride was not normally found in the water supply 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, or 1,000 years ago.
Even calcium fluoride, even that naturally occurring.
No.
Really?
No. It's the result of the logging industry. I mean, this is a huge aside, but
it's material number 2. Right?
Yeah. But no, fluoride is not a normal constituent of drinking water. It's a marker for man-made
in industry, right?
Industry.
It's interesting. Dr. Paul Connett, someone I got to meet, he wrote a great book called The Case Against Fluoride with a couple other PhD researchers. And he mentioned something really important. And this is just bringing it back down to, I think, core belief or understanding you and I have of science, which is kind of what's natural, generally speaking, is what's best and safe. And so mother's breast milk filters out, I believe, 98 to 99.6% of the fluoride in the water. So if mother drinks fluoridated water, the breast milk will not have fluoride in it, or basically will have filtered out 99% of the fluoride, because first of all, the baby's brain is not, the blood-brain barrier is not fully developed until 6 months. So the brain's vulnerable, and that's baby's first meal, right? That's like the perfect food. If we could say, what's the perfect food? It's breast milk from a healthy mother drinking healthy water, right? And so her body filters that out. That's a great indication that we as humans are not meant to consume this mineral, or certainly in chemical form, because the mother's body really very clearly filters it out. And that's just a great indication from nature that we're not meant to have it inside of our bodies.
And I agree with you on that. And it's not like fluoride is a necessary, like there's not a USRDA, like you have to have a certain amount of fluoride, because unfortunately it's a neurotoxin. And these forever chemicals, these are fatty chemicals that once they get into the fatty part of the body, it's very hard for the body to move it out of the brain and other fatty tissue. And it's an underappreciated area. The exciting thing is there are now clinical tests that we can do on patients, on people, to measure the PFAS, the forever chemical level in the blood.
That's right. At the conference, we were talking to a bunch of people saying, hey, can you measure this? We want to make this available so people can measure their level of forever chemicals. It'd be really informed, just like it's good for us to know what a politician stands for before we vote for them. It'd be really good for us to know what's inside of our bodies as we carry on our daily lives, because if I have really high forever chemicals, I want to know where that's coming from. Is that from my food? Is that from my water? Is that from my clothing? Right? I wear some synthetic clothing when I exercise. Does that get into my body? Do I need to move because the air quality is bad? I want to know what forever chemicals I have so I can use that information to potentially adjust my lifestyle, or say, hey, my body's really clean. I'm living a good lifestyle. The air's clean, the water's clean, my clothes aren't hurting me. And so here's what I'm doing that's working. It'd be really good for us to know these things so we can kind of know what's been going into our bodies over the last couple decades.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it would be amazing.
Fascinating. So anything else that has motivated you, inspired you, driven you to go down this field of expertise, of specialty, of helping people prevent dementia, and then helping people get their minds back in your clinical practice, getting their memory back, getting their cognitive faculties back?
Yeah, so it was personal first with my grandmother, then seeing it with patients, and now being able to take patients who have seen 10, 20, 50 different physicians at some of the most...
50? Oh my gosh.
Yes, 50 different physicians at some of the most prestigious institutions you've ever heard of. And basically they're told, I'm really sorry you have Alzheimer's, you have this dementia. There's really not a lot we can do to help you. Here, take this medication and maybe it won't get any worse.
If you are having trouble sleeping, I have a great supplement I want you to know about. It's called Roar Lion's Mane. So Lion's Mane has many different benefits for the brain and for the body. Lion's Mane improves memory. Lion's Mane reduces stress, reduces anxiety. It helps slow down aging by lowering inflammation, and it helps with sleep. It helps you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and fall back to sleep. I learned about Lion's Mane about 5 years ago when I was having trouble sleeping. When I took it, after about a week, I noticed that I was sleeping better and I was able to fall back to sleep, and I was having vivid dreams, which is really cool. And now I take Lion's Mane 5 to 6 nights a week. And I do this because it helps me fall back to sleep. So when I wake up, I'm no longer anxious when I wake up, and I'm able to kind of lay still in bed and fall back to sleep. And I get vivid dreams, which I really like, and it improves my REM sleep. So if you'd like to try some of my Roar Lion's Mane risk-free, go to roarlionsmane.com or robertlove.net to learn more.
I mean, who could afford 50 doctors at top institutions? I mean,
yeah, but what you may not understand is, like, if you don't have your health, money doesn't matter. So people are willing to mortgage their house, whatever friends, family, whatever resources.
You're right. It's a very smart thing to do. There's a great adage that I heard. It was, the man with good health has 1,000 dreams. The man without good health has only one, which I think is really true and important. There's something.
Well, the other thing that is, like, selfishly, I've also realized, just I want to be able to help people, help patients, and if my brain isn't functioning well, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, during my medical training, where literally they had us awake for sometimes 36 hours straight at a time.
It amazes me. I'm reading a great book about a neurosurgeon. I think it's called When Air Hits the Brain. He's talking about residency training, which you're familiar with, where you don't sleep. And I think, oh my gosh, are people in life and death situations really going into a hospital and talking to somebody who hasn't slept for 24 hours, and they're making the decisions about my health that are going to impact my long-term health? That's amazing to me that that's the system that was created, I don't know, in the 70s and the 50s. I don't know when it was created, that we still have today, where people are not sleeping for over a day and making life and death decisions for multiple people. That is astounding to me that still exists today, when we know how important sleep is for decision making.
100%. And yes, so you do try to function with no sleep, but I've seen how I make mistakes when I'm sleep deprived, but of course I always want to improve my own thinking, and just so I can help other people, because the more I don't want to make mistakes, but there's sometimes that I do need to stay focused for more than 5 or 6 hours, and I want to see what is it that I can do to improve my own brain function.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned something. I wanted to see if I understand this correctly. My understanding is, in talking with clients, and my understanding is that someone will go to get tested, let's say by a neurologist. They'll say, oh, you don't have Alzheimer's. Come back when it's Alzheimer's, right? They have mild cognitive impairment, which is like pre-Alzheimer's. They have some memory loss. They're not doing great, but they're getting up there in age. Like, okay, come back when it's Alzheimer's disease. And then they come back, they're diagnosed with Alzheimer's. They say, okay, you have Alzheimer's. Sorry, there's nothing we can do. Or they say, here's this drug, take this. And the patient will say, does this drug work? No, not really. Will this give me my memory back? No. Will it slow down Alzheimer's? Just maybe a little bit. Are there side effects? Yes, there are very bad side effects. So either they say there's nothing we can do, or they give them drugs that don't work to barely work, that have significant side effects. Is that pretty much true?
That sounds that's a very common scenario, and what underlines this whole problem is that what's happening now is these neurologists, etc., they're not going to the root cause. Great, you've got Alzheimer's. What's causing Alzheimer's? You've got Parkinson's. Okay, what's causing the Parkinson's? You've got ALS. What's causing it? You had a stroke. What caused the stroke? They're not going to the root cause. And if you don't go to the root cause, you can't prevent it, and it's really hard to reverse it.
That's a great point. They don't say, why do you have Alzheimer's disease? Why do you have memory loss? What's causing these things? They say, oh, you have this thing. We don't have a treatment for that.
Or they say, oh, look, you have the genetics. You are at a higher risk of having ALS or Alzheimer's. Great, but like, I want to know if I'm at an increased risk, but if I am, if I do have that risk, what are some things I can do to prevent it?
Yeah, absolutely. So shall we flip the roles now, and then you can take over as interviewer?
It is my pleasure to introduce, Dr. Robert Love, PhD, who is on this journey with me of helping people prevent Alzheimer's. And I'm going to ask you the similar exact same question, which is, how in the world did you get into the neuroscience field, and what drove you there, and what keeps you here?
Yeah. So in college, I was really interested in psychology, and I had a great professor, Alan Schneider. He was interested in physiological psychology, which is basically neuroscience. It's the physiology of the brain, neurotransmitters, and so forth. I remember the first day of class, he talked about HM. And for those of you who are into memory or, science or psychology, HM is a famous memory case. And HM basically had a treatment where his hippocampus, which is the memory center of his brain, they mess with it to reduce his tremors, and basically he lost the ability to make new memories. So he's talking about this long spiel about HM and about the memory and the brain. I'm just enthralled. And then at the end, he says, "Do you know why I know these things?" He's like, "Because I am HM." And there's like a long silence, and then he laughed, and he just had us. I still remember this was over 20 years ago. I just loved psychology. I loved this professor, and I was just enthralled by it. So I just took all the psychology courses I could with him. The very next semester, I took physiological psychology, and I took advanced courses in it. And, there's like 5 of us in a room. I went to Swarthmore, which is a really small college. And so we had these very small classes with the professor, and I'm having discussions with him. I just loved it. That was so interesting. And I was originally...
Were his initials HM?
Alan Schneider. So no, they were not HM, but he had us fooled there for a good, 3 seconds and broke the laughter.
That's loud.
And he does that every year. And I think that's what gets a lot of people into psychology, because he ensnares our emotions that very first class with his storytelling. Interestingly, I think he's in his 90s, at least in his 80s. He looks the exact same as when I was in his class. And he was known for running every day on campus. If you're an athlete, you'd see him run every day. And he looks the exact same age as he did 20 years ago. So exercise, we talk about this in the program a fair amount. Exercise is so important for longevity, for slowing down aging, for brain health. And he's just walking example of it. And he's still working. He might be working another 20 years. That'd be fantastic. So I love psychology. And I also came from it from an own personal interest. I was diagnosed with ADHD. I still do have ADHD. And I was taking Adderall at the time, Adderall or Ritalin. And I wanted to know what the heck I was doing in my brain. Like, oh, that's working on dopamine, and dopamine, works on these centers of the brain. Here's what it does. Here's what cocaine does. And here's how cocaine affects dopamine. And, here's what alcohol does. Alcohol works on GABA. And it was just so interesting to me to be able to put chemical reactions or chemical impact of these different drugs that people take, alcohol, tobacco, amphetamine. It's just fascinating to me. And then I ran out of courses to take. I frankly took all the physiological psych courses that I could at Swarthmore.
I would like to thank our sponsor, Microingredients. Microingredients has really high quality products. All of their products are third-party tested, which means an independent company has tested them for quality and safety. So you know you were getting the highest quality products. They have a great collagen. This great anti-aging benefit helps reduce skin wrinkles, great for your skin, hair, and nails. MCT oil is terrific in coffee, great dairy replacement. And this is also great for the brain. Can even help with weight loss. Their blueberry powder, their organic blueberry powder. I'd love to add this to my smoothies. And their newest supplement, their curcumin supplement, is fantastic. So a good curcumin supplement will have 1,000 milligrams a day of curcumin, and it will have black pepper. So this has black pepper, and this has 1,000 milligrams of curcumin, plus some other things in it, and MCT oil as well, which helps with absorption. Research shows, I've been taking curcumin for at least 5 years. I'm going to take curcumin as long as I'm alive until the science changes, because this is so good for your brain. Curcumin helps reduce the accumulation of amyloid plaque in the brain. Curcumin improves memory in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. Curcumin reduces inflammation. It slows down aging. Is one of the safest, most powerful supplements you can take. And so if you want to get this from Microingredients, go to Amazon and then use the coupon code RobertLove at checkout, and that'll get you a really nice discount on curcumin.
And then I went to graduate school in cognitive psychology at the University of Texas at Austin. And I earned a master's degree from there, and another master's degree in public health at the LBJ School of Public Affairs. And then I did some independent research, and then I finished my PhD online a few years later. And at that time, I was doing work in ADHD. I was coaching parents and children who had ADHD, how to manage their symptoms. Really, if someone has ADHD, number one thing is to exercise. If you're not exercising, It's hard to focus. It's hard to sleep. It's easy to get anxiety. All these problems, they don't exercise. So it's really trying to help them have more sustainable natural solutions than taking ADHD drugs, which are very effective, but have serious side effects, serious costs. And then I came home. This was 3 years ago. My mother was having back surgery, and I was an entrepreneur. I still am, unmarried, still am. And I could come home and help my mother as she recovered. And so I came home to help her recover from her back surgery and help around the house and so forth. And I noticed that her and my father had really bad memory. Their memory just was not what it used to be. And then I have dementia in my family. I had a grandfather with dementia, with Alzheimer's disease. I remember watching him slowly decline, and that was just really painful for my family, especially my dad. And then my mother's father, he had dementia unspecified, which we now think was due to the dry cleaning chemicals. This is really in your wheelhouse, the toxicity of the chemicals. And he was a dry cleaner early on for many years. I think started at age like 15 or so. He had to help support his family working as a kid. So I had all dementia in my family. I was very concerned. And while I was at home, I just started looking at what my parents were eating. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're eating so much sugar. They're eating so much sugar, especially a chocolate. And I thought, I got to get my parents off this, but I can't take the chocolate away. But I got to get the sugar out of their diet. And so then I switched my focus from ADHD to Alzheimer's disease, which had a fair amount of overlap because they both involve memory, attention, actually similar ways to fix it: exercise, sleep, reduce the stress, eat the healthy food. They're very, very similar solutions to different problems. And at that point, I switched my focus, my research focus, and my focus of my business from ADHD and helping children and adults with ADHD to helping people prevent Alzheimer's disease. And my first venture in this area was healthy chocolate. I had this company called Smart Chocolate, but that was a product. It was the most, I have to tell you, Dr. Josh, it was the most healthy, amazing tasting chocolate for your brain. I had anything I could put in there that was healthy, that was great for the brain. I had it in my chocolate. I had matcha, which is like green tea on steroids. I had lion's mane. I had like really like a 5-to-1 or 8-to-1 ratio of lion's mane. It was like very, really powerful. I had Ceylon cinnamon. I had curcumin. I had black pepper. It was so good. Plus the chocolate. And then I had allulose as a sweetener, which is a low-calorie sweetener that's ketogenic friendly with stevia and mumford sugar. It tasted amazing. It was like really high-quality chocolate. It was so good, and it was so expensive, and I just lost money doing it. So I did that for about 2 years. I had some investors. I wasn't able to make any money.
But you still like chocolate though, even though
I still love chocolate. And then
now here's something similar. I've been a huge fan of chocolate. In fact, I think I still have a website called drchocolate.com.
Dr. Chocolate? You have Dr. Chocolate left?
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that later.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Interesting side note. The first Christmas that I came home and I brought chocolate for my family, or this is the first year I was making healthy chocolate. My brother, who's 7 years younger than me, he comes home and he brings healthy chocolate. He said, "Oh, I've been making healthy chocolate for the ashram." He lives at an ashram, and he's like, "My chocolate's got like rosemary and it's got really healthy stuff." I'm like, "You're making healthy chocolate? I'm making healthy chocolate. How did we not know this?" Like it was just the strangest coincidence that two of us, independent of each other, both started making healthy chocolate. It was really, really funny.
That is amazing. Let me ask you though, you were mentioning first your interest personally with ADHD and then with dementia. In my experience, I see a lot of patients with both. Has that been your experience too?
I haven't noticed that in the older adults. As you know, there is a risk factor, and there's a variety of them. It's really interesting. Why do people with ADHD, or why are they more likely to get Alzheimer's disease? Well, number one, they're more likely to do drugs. Like people with ADHD, we're sensation seekers. We're more likely to get a concussion because we're more likely to skydive. We're more likely to try drugs and drink alcohol.
You're deficient in dopamine, right?
Yeah, so we got to fill the gap, right? We got to ride motorcycles without helmets, and we got to do crazy stuff. We have more sexual partners. There's all kinds of sensation seeking to go along with ADHD. Not to mention we don't sleep as well. We're more likely to have anxiety. We might have comorbid depression. So there's a bunch of different things that go along with the ADHD. And then we might have trouble learning. And then lower education is associated with Alzheimer's disease. And this is really, really sad for people of lower income or people of color who are denied educational access, that significantly increases the risk of Alzheimer's disease later in life. So low educational attainment and people with ADHD are more likely to have trouble in school and not finish high school, not pursue college, not pursue advanced degrees. So that'll put them at risk later in life. I don't know about the specific brain chemistry, probably, but all these different factors together really stack up, and I would say do significantly increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease for us. I like to say ADHD geniuses. I think we're kind of geniuses in our own way.
I think you're right. I mean, it's in some ways looked at as a disease, but I think for some people, it's a special skill. It's like a superpower.
Yeah, it's a superpower when we sleep and when we exercise. If we don't sleep and we don't exercise, boy, I'm neither pleasant nor all that helpful in solving other people's problems, like helping people prevent dementia. So if I get my exercise and sleep and I eat well, I'm usually pretty effective.
Dr. Let me change gears a little bit and ask you about you definitely had a huge amount of academic experience, both at Swarthmore and University of Texas. I think you were there for like 4 years or something like that.
5.
5 years, excuse me.
2 master's degrees from there.
2 for 5 years. So let me ask you this. What was your experience in the academic world compared to just dealing with people outside of academia? Do you think there's a different approach to the brain or brain diseases?
Well, it's really interesting. When I talk to entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you've experienced this being both in professional practice and then talking with people that are really just trying to help people. I've noticed people in academia, it's like a corporation in that they have kind of strict rules and kind of strict ways of thinking. Swarthmore, not so much, because it's a small liberal arts college and it's, you can say and do kind of whatever you want. Texas, I ran into some bureaucracy. I was like, you're really, this is how you approach things. It's really fascinating to me. But outside of academia, and what I've noticed, some things that I'm doing now are upsetting academia. So I talked about aniracetam. Aniracetam is a pharmaceutical drug that's shown to reverse memory loss associated with Alzheimer's disease in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. When I share this to academics hear about it, they get mad. I don't know why they get mad, because I'm not them, but they don't like that I share that and that I cite the data. Like, look, here's a study from Italy. And so I find it a little bit more boxed in.
Right. But there's more than one study from Italy. There's several studies.
Yeah, there's multiple studies in humans.
Yeah. When you show those studies to these academics, what do they say?
It's the academics or even medical doctors that are in the mainstream medicine. It's oh, well, if this study were so valuable, everyone would know about it. That's why I'm telling you. Right? I'm telling you right now, here's the study. It's very interesting. People, gosh, what was the quote? It's a quote from someone who's very expert in their field. I think it was in medicine. It said, an expert is defined as someone who knows so much that they can't receive any outside input, right? So, when you bring something like a study on aniracetam, which no one knows about, to either an academic or a mainstream medical doctor, their response is, "Oh, this isn't important because I'm an expert and I already know everything." And I would say I'm an entrepreneur first, and then I'm a scientist and entrepreneur. And so as a scientist, I got to be open to learning things and being wrong, because that's what science is, right? Especially neuroscience, where we know so little about the brain. And then the idea of bringing these studies or bringing research to people, either in academia or in mainstream medicine, and then they scoff at it and say, "Oh, that's not important," or well, if I haven't heard about this before, if everyone's not talking about this, it's not that important. No, that's not the right response. The right response is, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me learn more about that, and let me see if this is valuable for me and my patients and my clients." Right? That would be the responsible answer from a scientist.
But that's not the response you're seeing so far.
No, the only people I get that from are entrepreneurs. When I tell an entrepreneur, or I shared this with you, said, "Dr. Josh, I got this great supplement, improves memory loss in double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, improves memory in healthy adults. It's safe. It's really, really safe. Very few side effects. Like, do your own research. You then do your own research and then see if you want to take it." When you share this with medical doctors, I was in an appointment with a doctor. I was trying to get prescribed modafinil, and I told it. He said, "Robert, what are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm researching curcumin and how it helps reverse the accumulation of plaque in the brain." He said, "Oh, that's interesting." I said, "That's interesting. Don't you want to know about the research you can tell your older patients? Every single older patient that walks through the door, doctor, is going to want to know this research, and you don't want to know it from me. That's crazy to me." And so it's almost like a programmed ignorance of facts and data that they're not interested in, about supplements that can improve memory and prevent memory loss, or unconventional things that can improve memory and prevent memory loss. Generally speaking, I found mainstream doctors are not that interested. Longevity doctors and functional medicine doctors are. Entrepreneurs are very interested, right? If you tell an entrepreneur this will improve your memory, like, great, what is it? Let me take it. Like I'm like, entrepreneurs really want to improve the memory, especially in Silicon Valley. They're people doing very cutting edge things with the health and longevity.
So would you call this barrier to scientists and academicians and medical doctors to learn more information? Would you call that maybe confirmation bias?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. That would require, I mean, I don't know why. Frankly, I'm not always aware why I do what I do. And so trying to judge why other people do what they do, it's just my general observation that when you show someone who's somewhat entrenched in a large establishment, whether that's a school, but really more in the medical system, I found that's really, really entrenched. Unless they're in a cutting edge field, they're really not that interested, generally speaking, in learning things from someone who's not a direct colleague about their field of expertise, or about things that can help their patients that are outside of traditional medicine. If it's traditional medicine, say, look, this new drug by big pharma helps with dementia. Oh, I'm interested. Oh, this supplement used in China for the last 1,000 years improves memory loss. Oh, I'm not interested. Why? I don't understand that. If both peer-reviewed research in refereed journals show that both are helpful, why isn't this one just as valid? That's really interesting to me. I'm not these people, so I don't know why, but it's very interesting to me that everyone, both in academics and in mainstream medical, why everyone isn't just really excited for all the research on exercise and diet and supplements that are all very safe and effective, that can really help you with memory. It's surprising me that they're not just overjoyed with all the data coming in, on all the many things that people can do that are low cost or no cost to help improve their memory and prevent Alzheimer's disease. It's a really exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited like you, and that's why really happy to be working on this summit with you.
Well, thank you. Just to finish out the personal story. So I switched to Alzheimer's disease, preventing Alzheimer's disease after seeing my parents lose their memory. And then I worked on their diet. So I got my mother on the keto diet. She lost so much weight on the keto diet, they had to readjust her blood pressure medication. It was really cool. Then one of her doctors said, "Oh, what did you do to lose all this weight and get healthy?" He said, your blood panels are healthier than you've been in 10 years. And she said, "Oh, I went on, my son and he and I went on the keto diet." He's like, "Oh, that's interesting." Not a follow-up question. Not really. I might recommend this to my other patients. Again, it was just the example of this was really helpful, but they didn't want to learn more about it, which was interesting. So I helped her. I got my dad on some healthy supplements. My dad's really good at exercising. I couldn't make the chocolate work. I will at some point. But then I switched to working with clients directly, and that proved to be really helpful. I have a great memory test that's used by Stanford Medical School at Mount Sinai Hospital to test clients before we work with them, to test where they are on the memory scale. We have a hands-on coaching program and a comprehensive protocol that is largely based on Dr. Dale Bredesen's work. He's a personal hero of mine. Dr. Dale Bredesen wrote the great book, The End of Alzheimer's Program. He basically cracked the code for Alzheimer's disease and how it's not one risk factor. It's like 40 different risk factors. And by addressing all 40, you can really make a big difference. There's the buck. Yes. I love him. I hope history is kind to him, because I think he's really done great work. So using that as the backbone of a program to help you work one-on-one with them to really help them get their memory back, that's been really rewarding. You and I have both seen grandparents die from dementia, and we have the tools now to help a lot of people prevent it, and then help some people regain their memory in the process. And so that's where my practice went. And then I've been fortunate enough to meet people like you who want to collaborate and create a lot of educational information to reach, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, with our social media accounts, reach millions of people and hopefully impact millions of lives with the science, and just say, look, here's the science, here's the foods that are good, here's the supplements that are good. Please do these things. And that's been so rewarding to have the opportunity to really try to help potentially millions of people with the current science.
That's great. Yeah, so happy to be working with you on this, Dr. Liz.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Josh, thank you so much. This is, as always, this is so fun.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everybody.